Alright, what's going on, everybody? Sorry for the delay. As usual, some technical issues. Shocking, I know. But we are here live with the one, the only,
Nope.
Matt Frank. Yep.
Yeah, that's me. I guess. Sorry, I didn't know if you were gonna bring me in or if I was gonna be inserted or not, because I could see myself as a tiny little corner.
I think I messed up. Let's get it there. There we go. Now you look.
Oh,
Now you're front and center there.
big man. Let me make I'm making a couple of posts right now. Oh, come on. Let me make the post.
Yeah, man, that's what I've been struggling with all night as well.
Yeah, dude, tell me about it. Let me see, Kaiju live and post, and then I mean, we were just talking about how the two of us we've been technologically challenged, especially recently, having to adapt to everything. Oh, cool. Sorry, now I'm on Facebook, and that's a mistake. Okay. So yeah, happy to be here. I think we've talked about this for a while, or rather, I think I brought it up at one point because I was like, I knew I wanted to come on and say hi and hang out with everybody a little bit. So here I am.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, man. As you know, obviously, Kaiju Live, we're a big fan. And the artwork behind me, as if I haven't said it every week, that is done by Matt Frank. He hooked us up making this, taking our logo monsters and bringing them to life. My dad seems to like the name Evil Yujiak, I believe it is, that he says.
Evil Jack.
It's basically Kaiju Live backwards.
Oh, that is kind of fun.
And he wants to name the monsters that. We're going back and forth. But I kind of like that as that being like the alien race that controls the monsters. But, we're just...
I mean,
we'll figure it out.
We could crowdsource an origin story right now. I mean, shoot. Exactly. Well, y'all didn't just, it wasn't just y'all that benefited from this little exchange, because I got my boy right here. My storyboard Godzilla. This is definitely one of the prides and joys of my collection. And he has a special spot above the entryway of our house. There's actually a little landing up above the entryway of the door, and it's him and a couple of others of these solid plastic Sofubi Kaiju. So I love him so much.
Awesome, man. Yeah, it was a fantastic trade. And
sure.
You knocked out the artwork. I know me and our family, we got a little annoying, I'm sure.
No, I mean, dude, trust me. It's
because I know originally we had a portrait mode. Essentially, it was a portrait file.
Right, it was this way, and then it was I'll just use this as a visual aid. It was portrait, and then it was
landscape.
Landscape. It's fine. I mean, trust me. You guys were some of the lower stress clients I've had to deal with, so it's all good.
Yeah, man. I try not to bother.
It's all good. I mean, honestly, that's the thing about a lot of artists, especially if you commission something from them and it's not like for a specific deadline or something. You kind of need to stay on us, because it's not that we don't want to do the thing. It's that subconsciously we start to think that, well, they're not clamoring for it, therefore I can kick that can down the road and focus on other stuff, which is one of the unfortunate... That's one of the things when you have really, really nice clients who don't want to rush you. So you're like, oh, okay, well, I'll come back around to that once I get this other stuff done.
Yeah.
And this other stuff, and this other stuff, and then this other stuff. So it only took about a year and a global pandemic for me to get this thing done.
Well, it was worth the wait, man. I thank you so much for working with me, and I know we went back and forth on the colors a bunch of times.
Yeah. I'm glad you had the. I'm glad that you gave me the updated logo because I think the green really makes it stand out.
Yeah, it pops.
Yeah. Oh man, now I'm just thinking about what names I want to give these guys.
Well, I do want to do a naming contest in the group.
That's fun.
And we'll come up with some kind of prizes and whatnot. But yeah, I would love to. Well, actually, since we'll go right into it. So Matt has some sweet prints to show off that we will be putting onto the website sometime next week.
You want me to show those off?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Keep talking. Don't let me interrupt you.
No, go
I'm posting the link on Twitter now. Okay, where'd they go? Oh yeah, here they are. The first, so these are the prints. I ran out and had these made, I think last week. And this is the logo. This is the logo version. They're all 80-pound cardstock. They're real nice quality. I can sign them. I've got that version, and I've got the no logo version. This one here, it just doesn't have the, because I accidentally had this one printed first, and then you were like, oh, I thought you were gonna put the logo on there, and I'm like, ah. So, because we were gonna go live that like last Friday or something, weren't we?
Sunday, yeah.
Yeah, on Sunday, and so I wanted to have them ready to go because the print shop's not open on Saturday and Sunday. But I got them, I got them both made. I'm very happy about it. Also, I wanted to show off the original, which is fun.
I cannot wait to just have that.
I even got the. Oh,
you got it laminated? Okay. Oh boy!
It's not laminated. It's in a sleeve, but
so it's like a giant baseball card.
Basically, yeah. And I even got my stamps on there because last time when I was in Tokyo back in November, a fan gave me. Where are they? They might be buried under some stuff. A fan gave me custom Hanko stamps. This one says my name. It says Mato. And
that's awesome.
It's very fun. And then this one says Kaiju Ol, which means Monster King. Kaiju King. So that makes me really happy. Well, now I'm out of focus, so hold on. Whoa.
Cody.
Whoa. There we go.
I'm responding somewhere in the chat. Cody, that is not even close.
What did he say?
It says AJ looks incredibly high, but that... Nope. Unfortunately, I am not.
With the state of the world and everything, I think everyone could use a little chemical aid, if you know what I mean. I would have some beer here, but I don't. Instead, I have my delicious udon noodles that I made.
There you go.
Yeah, it's I call this Texas udon, which you cut up a hot dog and you sprinkle it in there. It's good though. A little veggie stock. You got yourself a meal. Anyway. Yeah. Yes, we got quite a few people.
Yeah. We got almost 30 viewers right now. So if you got anything you want to say,
LA rock yo sock off. How's living in Japan? It would be great if I lived there. I currently don't. I'm actually still in Texas. That's not to say the thought hasn't crossed my mind, but I like living in Texas. I like living in Austin, especially because it's Austin. It's a great town. So I do remember back in November when I was there for like almost 5 weeks, I started getting messages from people being like, Did you move there? I'm like, no, I'm just here for a long time.
And you were there like basically when the whole COVID stuff started like right up, right?
Yeah, I was there right when it was right when China was starting to shut down their airports. and that was February. So I was there in November, and then I went back again in February because.
Were you worried you were going to get stuck there?
No, because at the time it hadn't really spread. Like it was still like, or rather, nobody really knew.
Yeah, it
what
really
was going
didn't hit
on
over here yet in February.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it really wasn't until March that things started to kind of lock down. So I was
glad you made it back, because I'm sure that would have been terrifying. It's like, oh, you can't leave.
It probably wouldn't have been the worst situation.
Well, you've been out there quite a few times, right? So you're fine.
If worse came to worse, I probably could have stayed with some people while I got my bearings and figured out where to go and what to do and whatever. But that's luckier than some people that had been when everything happened, because a lot of people got stuck overseas and stuff.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, at the time, like I said, there wasn't really we didn't really know what was going on. It was just like, oh, there's this thing. So at the time, everyone was kind of like, oh, it's going to be like swine flu, or it's going to be like whatever, and they'll just lock it down. And they didn't, and here we are. But yeah, things seem to at least calm down a bit. But yeah. Oh, there's Frank in the comments. Hi, Frank.
Hey, Dad.
Yeah.
So we're going to be doing a cool thing with the prints. So the ones with the logo are going to be the exclusive signed versions by Matt. Actually, so are you going to sign them, or are you going to use your stamps? Now I'm very interested.
Oh, well, no, that's actually a really good question. Unfortunately, the ink won't adhere to these.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I could do it on the back maybe, but that's not as fun. I'll probably just rock out a signature there in that spot right there, because I did a rare thing. I left some negative space.
Whoa.
So a place for me to actually sign stuff. No, I'm just looking at some of the comments, but yeah, it's very fun.
Yeah, man.
I'll sign them all.
Oh, you'll sign them all? All right, so we're gonna have two versions. And if you like our logo, then you can have that one, and if you don't like our logo, then you can have that one.
I mean, ultimately, it's ultimately up to you, man. I mean, it's your money.
Hey, if you don't mind, what was there 60 of them now? There's 30 of each one, right?
Yeah.
So if you're cool with signing 60, then awesome.
Dude, I signed almost 100. I signed almost 100 comics over the weekend for Cover Alphas, the Power Rangers Ninja Turtles crossover. I signed like 100 covers of that and fired them back over. Those will be available on coveralpha.com, I think.
Awesome.
And they got little sketches on them too.
Sweet.
Maybe I should do that. Maybe every couple of them I'll throw on a little doodle.
Ooh, like super exclusives?
Super exclusives. Super exclusives. You can charge more for those.
Oh boy.
Anyway.
All right, so let's see. I got a couple little questions here.
All right.
All right. So, how did you get involved with Arrow Video in terms of the Gamera collection? How'd it go down?
Well, I was a young boy in England. No, just kidding. Anybody who's seen me at a panel knows I do that bit. So it was very, it was kind of out of nowhere. Like, it actually was about a year ago, a little over a year ago, they contacted me, and like last April, and they were like, and the title of the email was really funny because it just said Gamera Commission or something. And I'm thinking like, oh, it's this, somebody's looking for a sketch, and no big deal. And then I looked at it and I was like, it's like, hi, I'm James Flower from Arrow Video. We're putting out a big Gamera Blu-ray release. We want you to do the art for it. And I'm like, what now?
Whoa, did anyone just hear that?
Yeah.
That's thunder outside. All right, well, if this goes off, or Godzilla's outside my house, if we get disconnected, yeah, you know why.
That
That was crazy.
Well, That's, everybody keeps saying like, oh man, what's next for 2020? Is Godzilla going to show up? And I'm sitting here thinking like, man, that'd be such an improvement.
Yeah.
Because it'd be something cool.
Exactly.
As opposed to like a bunch of constant screaming. But yeah, so they contacted me, and it was funny because, as I've described in other places, whenever I get an offer for a job like that, my first thought is very logistical. Like, where I'm like, okay, how am I going to fit this into my schedule? How can I work around the other stuff I'm working on? How am I going to approach it? And then as I sit on it a little while, I start to be like, oh my God! Because, then the fan claws out and is like, no, it's a thing that you get to be involved in. And yeah, so that was very, very cool. And I think it was extra funny because I think that was right around when the announcement was made about, I don't remember the timeline exactly, but I want to say that was around when Criterion's set got announced. And the rumor was going around that a bunch of artists had been attached to it, and including my friend Sophie Campbell, who did the Destroy All Monsters poster for that, which is my favorite out of the set. And I remember thinking like, oh, I like Godzilla. Which it wouldn't be the first time I've done a poster for a Godzilla movie. I did that Shin Godzilla poster back in 2017, but still though, like, then this Gamera thing drops in my lap, and I'm like, oh my God.
So did Criterion not even reach out to you at all for the Godzilla set? Really?
They reach out to, I think the only like regular, the only Godzilla artist they reached out to was Art Adams. I don't think they reached out to anyone else. And I don't think anyone else in that set. I think Jeff Darrow had done a couple of Godzilla covers. He did the Smog Monster one, I think. And then there was another artist, I think it's Simon Gain, who was the main artist on the second IDW ongoing. But yeah, well, and as I've said in other places, you have to remember that the people in charge of these projects, they can't, they're not usually like diehard fans. They're not thinking like, who's the top Godzilla artist? They're thinking, who do we know who would be good for this job? And that's usually how things.
I mean, when they first announced it, I was kind of shocked that it didn't look like you or Bob Eagleton were reached out to. It was like, how? It's like, all right.
I mean,
and then I like a lot of the artwork there, but there are some that just, when I see that Godzilla vs. Mothra and it's like the Tokyo SOS Godzilla, I'm like, what is this? It's like, that's my favorite Godzilla, man. Just draw him with his eyebrows. Let's go. But whatever.
It's still, well, no. I'm right there with you, man. Like, I really like a lot of the art. I think a lot of their choices were really, really good. Again, Sophie did an amazing job on the Destroy All Monsters one. It's very cute, and that's what I like about it. The Megalon one is really fun.
And I like the Mechagodzilla one too.
Mechagodzilla one, that one's really cool. There's another one. There's a couple in there that are like, oh, this is really cool. This is really cool. This is really cool. And then it's like, you'll have stuff like the Ghidorah three-headed monster art, which was another really amazing artist. It's this guy from Mexico. I can't remember his name, but he did this almost Mayan-inspired King Ghidorah wrapped around Godzilla thing. And I was like, that's a really cool design. That's from Godzilla versus King Ghidorah in 1991, though. Like, that's what these are. And it's like,
this is the Showa collection. Yeah.
And the thing is, whenever people ask, well, what's the issue? What's the problem? And it's like, it's for Godzilla fans, that's the equivalent of okay, let's say you put out a James Bond collection, but for whatever reason, half of the Sean Connery movies have Pierce Brosnan on the cover.
Pretty much.
Like, that's what it is. And it's like, okay, maybe it's not.
Or like some of those like old school wacky VHS ones where they just took any picture of Godzilla, slapped it on there, and they were just like, yeah, whatever, don't worry, they're fighting.
But see, like, we didn't have Wikipedia back then.
Yeah, exactly.
Guys, like, come on.
I remember being at like Toys R Us, and there was like, King Kong vs. Godzilla on VHS, and it was literally Godzilla 85 versus like
Kong 72.
Yeah, it was just like, all right. I mean, that's not what's in the movie, but I like this. This is cool.
I mean, again, there's a novelty to that, and that's really fun. I mean, I still ultimately like the set. I know that they had certain limitations put on them because of Toho.
It's a must-have set if you're a Godzilla fan.
Yeah, but
and if you missed it, go get HBO Max because all of them's on there now. So.
Yeah, that's tempting. I've just been trying desperately not to just fall down media holes during quarantine and everything. Although Texas is open, so
fantastic.
Although I have been trying to use it as an opportunity to give patronage to like some of the local businesses and stuff like Austin Books, and
awesome.
I haven't been up to Rogues Gallery yet in Round Rock, but I love their shop. They're another comic shop here in town. Trying to support people, but I got to be honest with you guys. This Gamera set, I had no idea how hard they were going to go into this. Like, the sheer volume of content crammed into this set is really staggering.
So on the hardcover comic, is that all you too, or?
No, actually. Okay, so that comic. Okay, so the cover is mine, and what it is essentially is it's an English version. This is really funny, actually. It's an English version of a Japanese release of an English language release. Because originally, I know. Let me actually see here, because like, hold on, I had everything right next to my desk. And is it in here? No. Where did I put those? Here they are. Nope. Yes. Okay. This is just a good example. So back in the 90s, Dark Horse made.
Oh yes, I have those.
Yes, Dark Horse made these. Actually, if you have number 4, dig it out and look in the letters column. You will see a letter from a 12-year-old Matt.
No way.
Yeah, and it even has my old address on it and everything.
I'll have to see if I can find those and dig them. I have all the comics in a box somewhere.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Sorry, my stream got a little interrupted. Yeah. And what was funny was, okay, so that's another story. So bear with me, guys. So I was back in 2015, which was of course the 50th anniversary of Gamera. 2015. Yes. Anyway, that was the 50th anniversary.
I'm sorry, before you go on, someone asked a spot to buy the Gamera Complete Collection. Does Amazon have it back again, or is it sold out there still?
As I understand it, it's back in stock everywhere. Amazon should have it. DVD Diabolic is another one. There's Arrow actually made a tweet about it. And they actually posted a bunch of places you could buy it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Personally, I'm a little on Amazon these days, so I would rather support.
Same.
Yeah,
I originally pre-ordered from there, so it is what it is. But
I do, I'm not going to judge anybody from ordering from there. I'm just, it's so ubiquitous now. I just try to push some of the smaller retailers, like I think Best Buy might be getting it. No, I think it's online retailers only. Although I know my local Kinokuniya really wants to get a hold of it, so we're trying to work something out there.
Put them in the Kaiju Live shop.
I'm trying to see if I can't figure out how to get signed copies out there.
Oh, yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens with that. But anyway, that DVD Diabolic is one. I think if you go to Arrow's website, they also have a list of retailers you can find stuff at too. So
And I just learned in the chat that it looks like my dad sold my comics, so that's good. So apparently I don't have that anymore.
Oh no!
So that's what happens when I move out of the house and there's a gap of where I didn't take some of my stuff with me. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll happen, unfortunately. Thankfully, I took just about everything from my parents' house. And I think the stuff I left there, they actually kept. Like, I think I still have some of my old dinosaurs and stuff. But anyway, yeah, it's what was really cool was when the set got announced. It was #1 in sci-fi Blu-rays on Amazon, and it was #7 on overall Blu-rays. So that was really cool. And anyway, so in the story of the comic, so Dark Horse, they made those comics, and then flash forward to 2015, I was working on The Last Hope, which was just a doujinshi, just a fan comic I wanted to make about just about Gamera's origin. Because I just wanted to do something because there was like nothing coming out for Gamera's birthday. Wasn't until the end of the year almost that short film at New York Comic Con premiered. But anyway, so I was working on this comic, and it was just going to be a doujinshi, which a doujinshi is, for those who don't know, is just a term for a fan comic. And I was just going to sell it at G-Fest or whatever, but I started sending the pages to my editor in Japan, to Andrew, over at Phase 6. And he got so enamored with it and liked it so much that he went out and got the license for the Dark Horse Gamera comics through Kadokawa so that he could package The Last Hope with it in a trade paperback format.
Wow.
So, yeah, and it was only going to be in Japanese, but it was official. And so he put it out in, I want to say, late 2016, maybe 2017. I can't quite remember, but it became an officially licensed Gamera story. And what we're getting in the Arrow set is that release. We're getting the 4 Dark Horse Gamera books and The Last Hope, and they're using my cover from the Japanese release.
Wow, that's awesome.
It's very cool. And that was just, I just suggested Last Hope at one point. I said, hey, if you guys are looking for anything else to stuff into the book, do you guys want to use this comic I did called The Last Hope? And there was a little bit of back and forth, and eventually they said, we're just going to do the whole thing.
So I'm going to take a guess and say that people over at Arrow, like, someone over there loves Gamera. Like, it sure sounds like it.
And it's so funny to say that, because I'm actually going to turn this way because I don't like the fact that you... Okay, hold on. That might be too bright. But anyway, it's funny you say that because I used to... Okay, screw this. It's funny you say that because I was starting to trying to sling some terminology, sling some knowledge on them. Like, oh, well, I'm going to Japan and I'm going to interview this person and then, this person and that. And they're like, yeah, Shinji Higuchi, I know. They're like, I mean, obviously they didn't quite like, they don't like live and breathe this stuff, but they clearly loved the material. James definitely did his homework when we were working on it, and he was way up on like what the movies were and which movies were what and which releases there were. And he would ask me, like, Matt, have you heard of this VHS that we're trying to track down? And I said, oh, I might have that. And then I didn't have it, so I'd have to reach out and try to find it. So they really did their homework, and they really gave a damn. Like they wanted to do a really, really good job on this. So I would say they're definitely fans.
I can't believe we're getting 4K transfers. I'm like, and that's on like every movie, right? Or is it just the new trilogy that has the Heisei stuff?
Might just be the 90s films, because
yeah, that still makes sense. That's fine.
Well, I believe they're taking those from the literal 4K transfers that came out in Japan a few years ago, because before that, we didn't really have those nice high quality transfers, but I don't think that they are literal 4K Blu-rays. I think they're just taken from 4K sources. So it's like the highest quality you can get without it literally being a 4K.
So with if we're getting 4K video on those, does that mean we're also basically getting like Dolby Atmos for audio or DTSX?
You're getting into the heavy technical stuff.
We got some
I would assume
audio nerds out there.
No, trust me. I mean, whatever is the best quality, I would assume that it would be as best as they could get for Blu-ray, because again, like,
it doesn't look like they're skimping out. Yeah.
What's that?
I say it doesn't look like they're like skimping out on everything, so I wouldn't be shocked if they went with it.
Well, I mean, I guess we'll see. It also just depends on what materials are available and what they can get Kadokawa to sign off on.
Let's see. So how many like pieces of artwork did you do for the collection?
Oh, like, I did. I think about 25 pieces of art.
And all of them are going to be in there, or were some rejected?
No, they didn't reject anything. Well, from the start, we were kind of we weren't really sure when we started off. We weren't really sure exactly how we wanted to approach the set, like, because we knew we wanted posters for representing each film, and we knew we wanted stuff for the box itself, and we wanted art assets that could be, it's not necessarily recycled, but art assets that could be spread out over the set. And there wasn't really a budget for me, for example, for me to be able to comfortably do a poster for every single film and artwork for the box set and the cover and it logistically that would have been really, really expensive, because at a certain point I would have just been working for pennies. That's not to say that they didn't pay me well. They were very, it was a good payday. They were very they took care of me, but at a certain point you also have to think like, okay, well, how much work can I put into this before it kind of gets away from me? Because I
25 pieces, that sounds it's
a lot.
Like a lot of time.
Well, I mean, like, here's some of them. Like, there's that's the Gamera.
And that's like the original right there. That's it.
Yeah, this is the black and white. That's an original. Let's see.
So do you have a personal favorite out of the whole bunch?
Hang on. I have them all stacked over here. I think for me, I don't really have a personal favorite, simply because. So I was actually struggling with it a little bit when I was first working on it, because I did the cover first, and the cover kind of came the most naturally, because I just kind of fell back on a lot of the styles that I had done with stuff in the past. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but I was very proud of how it came out, and they loved it. They were like, "Oh my God, we love this cover." So I'm like, dope. But I knew for the interior, I wanted to do a little something different. Something a little artsy fartsy, like something like maybe Mondo would do, or something maybe even closer in spirit to the Criterion set. So at first, the monsters were just like Barugan here was going to be just blue. It was all going to be blue, white, and dark blue, pretty monochromatic, and I was just going to in every monster would have a different color spectrum, like Gamera in this one part would be red, or Gauss would be red, or whatever. And then just one day I was toying with the color values in Photoshop on the Gauss, and it suddenly turned into like this, with this green background with this blue colored, like blue, almost purple colored body with these little red highlights. And I'm like, oh man, that really pops. I love the colors on this. So that inspired me to go through all the rest of them and try to find weird colors. Try to find weird color combinations of like, okay, well, if the base color for this character is yellow, then the shadows should maybe be blue, to really make that pop. So, so that was kind of how I found the art style. Plus, I also downloaded these really cool speckly brushes, like you see in the back of the Kaiju Live.
The After Effects kind of inside of it, yeah.
Yeah, that's a brush I had downloaded that has these little speckle pattern. And
I'm pretty sure those speckles are the why I'm having such a hard time getting shirts made.
yeah.
They're like, there's 800 colors in this, and I'm like, I don't know, I see like 3. They're like, no.
Oh yeah, trust me. Like, we would have to vastly simplify this in order to get it on a shirt, which I think we can do. But anyway, yeah. So that's the story about the that part of the art anyway.
All right, let's see. Someone asked, JPL asked a good question earlier, because you brought up Shin.
Yes.
So when you did the poster for Shin, was that also when you were doing like the bonus features, the sit down for that, or was that all tied together, or how did
it was all down? It was all kind of tied together because initially, the idea for me to be involved with the Shin Godzilla set came from Chris Merjahungir, who is he works over at Toho Kingdom, and he's done a bunch of, he's the one who gets all their exclusives. He's the one who kind of arranges for them to be able to interview people. He arranged for me to interview Gareth Edwards back in 2014 at South by Southwest, and which was really fun. If you guys you guys probably go to Toho Kingdom and check out that interview. It's a fun little interview. He's a really sweet guy, very down to earth. But anyway, Chris knew that Funimation was releasing Shin Godzilla, so he put me in touch with them and said, hey, y'all could probably do some sort of exclusive promotional thing with Matt. And that's when we kind of came to the idea of doing a poster for Shin Godzilla, and then that spun out into doing an art show that we did in Austin back in 2016 that we brought Bob Eggleton out for as well. He did his own poster, and it was beautiful. And then the special features, that was kind of a last-minute thing, very seat of your pants, because they basically called me up and said, hey, Matt, we want to do, because we can't do any special features for the Shin Godzilla Blu-ray. Can you come out to Dallas and we'll do a little sit-down roundtable? And I said, yeah, sure. So we did that, and that was a lot of fun. It was a little short notice because I would have grabbed some more Godzilla fans maybe to be in it, but it kind of happened so quickly that it wound up being me and 3 guys from Funimation. If you ever want to watch Matt struggle not to talk over people, you should watch that video, because they're super sweet guys, and I had a lot of fun with them. But every now and then it was kind of clear that, like, they have a couple of blind spots, which is fine. They're functioning adults. They don't have to know everything about Godzilla. And here I am struggling not to explain to them the differences between the 2001 roar and the 1989 roar as compared to the Shin Godzilla roars, which they kept saying that Shin Godzilla, he had a new roar, and I'm like, no, it's an amalgamation of different roars.
Yeah, they pulled in. It kind of reminds me of what they did in the Godzilla King of the Monsters. They took like 5 or 6 roars and were like, we're going to give you all of them. Like,
yeah, which I can tell. I bet you that was Anno's intent. He wanted it to kind of go through the gamut of the history of the character.
Yeah. For me, I love the 54 roar. So whenever I hear it, which it's obviously in Shin, I think when he's in the second form, when he's about to like finally stand up upright, And then even in King of the Monsters, when he gets knocked down in the first ice fight with Ghidra and then gets up and it's the total. Like that moment to me, I'm just like, I'm good. You won. Good job.
Like, for all the issues I have with King of the Monsters, there is no question that it gets the texture of Godzilla almost perfectly. Like, the roars and the sound design and the music. I mean, when Godzilla first shows up out of the ice, I almost started crying because you have that Toho theme, that Ifukube theme, and you're just like, oh.
Yeah, which we never thought we'd ever see, because obviously we didn't get it in the 98 movie. We didn't get it in 14, so it's like, Then they started teasing it a couple weeks before release, and I'm like, are they really going to do it? And then, boy, did they ever.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because the 2014 one, I actually have a really big soft spot for that soundtrack. I think it was Alexandre Desplat who did the soundtrack for that. I really think that he must have studied Ifukube, because his musical cues are very, like, they have that pounding, like, dun-dun-dun, 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 dun-dun, dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun. Like, it still has that feel of an Ifukube soundtrack, but there's no question that when you actually use Ifukube's music, it activates something in your brain, because
you've been watching.
We all know this. Yeah.
No, it's like watching James Bond and hearing the James Bond theme, or a Mission Impossible movie. Like, there are just certain characters that they have music tied to them, and I'm just finally glad to see it. I'm actually kind of now concerned because with Kong vs. Godzilla, I feel like they're not gonna use that soundtrack, and they're gonna go back to, like, we're just gonna do our own thing, and it's like that's gonna be such a step down.
I don't know, man. I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Talking about I wouldn't be surprised. What's that?
There was that rumor that Rob Zombie was going to do the soundtrack, and I'm like, dude, please.
I don't know. Like, that was completely manufactured hearsay.
Someone must have heard Super Beast and was like, of course he's going to do it.
I think it was because Rob Zombie made a Godzilla post on Instagram, and they extrapolated from that. But anyway, no, I'm hoping that they'll at least use it a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if at the very least they used Godzilla's theme, and then the rest was I was gonna say, if anybody's got any questions, we can keep it moving here.
Yeah, Q&A, open it up.
Actually, let me see that on Facebook. Yeah,
that Ghidra figure you had that you showed me before we went on. You talked about that on our Sunday show. And, here it is.
It's the Ghidra 91, and the really cool part is that it's autographed by Keizo Murase, and Murase-san, 2017, November 27th. Murase-san was he still works in the film industry, and or at least he still has his studio is still open. Murase was the suit builder he had been working with Toho like since the old days. Like, I think he built he built, or at least supervised building, the original Mothra, the Toho King Kong, Daimajin, Baragon, Varan, Titanosaurus. And then in the 90s, he also supervised the construction of the 90s Ghidorah as well as Mothra. And it's incredible. It was incredible to meet him, because I had seen in the special features of the Media Blasters Varan, the Unbelievable DVD, there's a little special feature of him teaching somebody, I think it was Shinada-san, who was the suit builder from GMK, teaching him how to make Varan's spines, and also how to make the texture of his scales. So anyway, it was actually my buddy Hiroshi Sagai, who is sadly no longer with us, who introduced me to him, to Murase, and Sagai pulled out this Ghidorah, and he's like, here, And he just gives it to me, and I'm like, oh my god. And I'm like, oh, and he said it was so cute because Sagai's English was limited. He said, you get Murase-san sign, then your treasure. It was so cute.
That's amazing.
It was I loved it. And so, yeah, this is definitely my treasure, one of my treasures now. And I'm very excited. I'm looking forward to the one that's going to go with it.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
It will be there shortly.
Lord willing, if I can take that new one with me when it's safe to travel again, I'd love to head back over there and get him to sign that one too.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Just have a collection of Ghidras, all that he's worked on. So did he work on the mecha suit then too, or was that somebody else?
I'm actually not sure, because the thing to remember about the kaiju movies is that it's rarely one group or one person working on these suits. Oftentimes the work gets spread out to different effects houses and different people, because the turnaround time for a monster suit in Japan is 40 days. And then that's for everything. That's King Ghidorah, that's Destroyer, that's Godzilla. It's 40 days because that's how they did it in the 60s, and that's how they still do it. And so you've got to spread the workload. So what was most likely, and I can't speak any authority on this, but what's most likely is Murase supervised building the Ghidorah, and then they probably handed it off to somebody like maybe, I can't remember if Shinichi Wakasa worked on that movie or not, but they probably handed it off to a different effects house who would then modify it into the Ghidorah suit. Because the thing to remember is that there are multiple suits for each monster.
Yeah, there's the water suit, and then the flying suit, and
yeah, exactly.
So David asks, what is your favorite kaiju based on design?
Oh, geez, based on design? That's a tough one. Hold on a second. I'm making another Twitter post. Oops, I made a tweet, but I didn't actually include the link. I just said we're doing a Q&A. No link.
Twitter's just gonna blow up. People asking, DMing you.
What is this? I can't say I have a single favorite monster design, because there's aspects of all of them that I love. There are certain things that I have proclivities towards, like, I tend to favor reptile monsters. I mean, I could go over to the shelf and I could grab like a couple of monsters and be like, I like this guy because he's this, and I like this guy because he's this. I mean, my favorite, like, kind of underdog monster is Varan, because I actually think that's a really elegant and really interesting design. And then there's a ton of Ultraman monsters that I'm just like, oh man, I love this guy, and this design is really cool. And I can't just pick one.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to either.
It's hard.
Who's your favorite character to draw then?
I mean, probably just out of habit, it's Godzilla. Because I've learned how to get a lot of emotion out of his face, and it's just kind of become second nature at this point. But aside from Godzilla, I'm learning to love Ghidorah. Because I used to actually dread drawing Ghidorah because his all of his heads and his giant wings and everything, and he's a huge pain to draw. But and I got to be honest with you, and I know there was a little contention about this, but GMK Ghidorah, I actually really like that design.
I'm gonna disagree.
There, judging you. No, he's over. Okay, whatever. He's here. You see him. I mean, it's like y'all were talking about on the live show. He's sort of made to look like Varan.
Yeah.
And I like that because Varan has a very classical Japanese demon or monster look to him in his face. And I personally like the idea that GMK Ghidorah is actually a juvenile Yamato no Orochi, the 8-headed dragon, and that to me is like a really fun idea of Ghidorah suddenly having 8 heads. That would be really cool.
Yeah, that would have been interesting to like, because I know they like hint at it very, but for me, I just can't see Ghidorah as a good guy. It doesn't sit with me well. Especially an Earth monster too. That was the thing where it's like you could tell that's when like Toho came in and was like, you have to put Ghidorah in it, and he's like, but the script, no, like all right, fine.
I don't mind an Elseworlds reinterpretation of something. I mean, I'm sure there's a Batman story out there where Batman's the bad guy and the Joker's the good guy. And if you're doing like a fun little one-off story, which is what GMK is,
that's true.
I think it's interesting to experiment with that, because for me, Ghidorah was still representational of this old world Japanese nature worship, because he's a dragon, and Godzilla represents this raw anger and malaise of modern society, and specifically of society that has been trampled over and forgotten. Hashtag too real, hashtag too soon. And as a result, you have these two opposing raw elemental forces of Japan itself. Like, they both represent Japan, these dueling natures of Japan. And them fighting each other, that to me is more interesting than strictly adhering to Ghidorah as a space monster, Godzilla as an earth monster, Godzilla as a lesser of two evils. Like, I don't know. Of course, I'm you know me, I'm all like, man, art of cinema, and.
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. GMK is probably my favorite, like, Millennium movie by far.
Why?
I just love the GMK Godzilla design. I love the white eyes. I like evil Godzilla. That scene where the woman screams in the street and he's just like, "What did you just do?" And he just that will forever stick with me, because it's just like you never see him do that, ever react to people, especially people screaming. So that was always just wild to me. And then you see the mushroom cloud from like the kids' classroom. It's like it's getting super real right now.
it's so interesting, because a lot of people like to talk about how dark that movie is, and it's such a dark Godzilla movie. There's so and it's like, it not really. I mean, there's thematic elements that are very dark. What's that?
I don't think it's more dark than, like, say, the original. I mean, the original is pretty dark.
Well, the original is so much more bleak, and it's very apocalyptic. Whereas the GMK, by comparison, is almost like a dark comedy. Like, it starts off as this dark comedy that then, once Godzilla shows up, it starts to shift to a more serious, dramatic narrative. And that to me is interesting, because it's like, for me, it feels like Kaneko is trying to represent the kind of all the dumb BS that we all deal with in our daily lives, and all the obnoxious people and stuff, and how everyone's kind of a pain to deal with. And then when a crisis happens, you either need to try to help, or you need to get out of the way. And that to me is
like the female character that's in the hospital. It's like, I love Godzilla. Like, that would be us. We'd be like, yeah, and then we get wrecked.
Oh no.
Like, well, he's here. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, well, that again. I mean, you could see that as sort of a comedic take, but it also sort of. I remember reading that somebody wrote. I think it was maybe Norman England. I don't remember, but somebody wrote that scene was very representative of how Godzilla is like the specter of death you can't escape. Like, once you're marked, it's kind of over. And I was like, it gives me the shakes, gives me the shivers.
I'm still deep down. I'm still disappointed that they didn't let Kaneko do Godzilla vs. Gamera.
Oh yeah,
Although I think Kaneko probably would have made Gamera win, which if he was going to give us that GMK version of Godzilla, I don't even think I'd be mad.
Well, I mean, well, because Gamera would have been the underdog, and again, that's unless you wanted to go super bleak with it, which is not fun. They would have had they're going to have Gamera win, which is sort of what I'm anticipating is going to happen with Godzilla versus Kong. Is that Kong is probably going to eke out a very feeble victory, but it's going to cost him.
Did you? There's some bad fan stuff that's been going like out with that. Like I think there's been like 3 different versions of a leaked script. One of them is, have you heard about the one? I mean, where they're basically essentially copying the anime Godzilla, essentially saying that the 2014 Godzilla is not the same Godzilla in King of the Monsters, which
whatever.
I would honestly, if that's what I so like. There's the 14 Godzilla, he turns evil, and that's the one that Kong fights. And, like, you know, the King of the Monster is not actually in the movie. If that happens, which, again, everybody, this is a grain of salt. This is just an alleged leak. I would be so angry.
That is some Rise of Skywalker nonsense. Like, that is some hard retcon. There's no reason for it. Like that's not going to happen. You don't have to worry about that.
Especially in the opening scene of King of the Monsters, it's literally, you know, that Godzilla that fights. You know, they open up with that family in 14, so it would make no sense. But I wouldn't be shocked to see, you know, a U.S. studio be like, "What does everyone hate? The anime? Yeah, let's do that."
They're not gonna. They're. Trust me, that's not even. You know, it's funny. I think it was last year when I was in LA, I stopped over at the Legendary offices. My buddy Larry took me and Lenny Romero over there just to say hi. It was just a social call, and we wound up meeting the vice president of Legendary, which was really cool. And he was a very cool guy. He clearly likes this stuff. But what was funny was, we mentioned Shin Godzilla at one point, and he's like, I don't know what that is.
What? That's a grow.
Well, you know, these guys, they're running studios, and they only have so many hours in the day to watch and consume movies. And he's not making the Godzilla movies. It's just his job to make sure that people get paid and make sure products happen on time. So you have to remember that, like, there's a pretty good chance. That's a thing, is when people when they ask the people who work on these films, like, really specific questions, like, oh, well, which version of Godzilla is your favorite? Like, or what suit is your favorite? Or which soundtrack is your favorite? Or what'd you think of this? What'd you think of the Godzilla anime? Half of the time, they're going to be like, I'm a working professional. I don't sit here and consume every scrap of media that flows in my field of vision. So I guarantee you, Adam Wingard has probably not seen the anime. Yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of the fan stuff surrounding it is just fan stuff. That's it just comes to the territory.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest concern with the movie in general is I don't really see a logical way for them to fight, because they've both been propped up as, like, superheroes. So aside from just I want to be the alpha now, like, in my mind, I can't really think of another reason why they'd go at it other than just that. Like, that's it. I'm big. Kong's like, I'm big now, so I want top spot. You're trash. So.
I don't know. You trash. You garbage. Yeah. I feel like what's more likely is, well, you have to remember, like, there are teams of people sitting in rooms, and their job is just to think about how is this going to work from a narrative perspective, and how can we get these two to fight. And when
Doherty
that's all
worked on the script, right?
What do you mean?
Michael Doherty worked on the script for.
I think he did he took a pass at it, so it would be consistent with what he was.
They kind of basically filmed the movies, like, on top of each other, so.
Yeah. he took a pass at it to make sure they kind of lined up. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. If the movie does disappoint, I definitely think that's it for our beloved MonsterVerse. But I'll be happy with what we, I'm happy with what we got.
Yeah, it's been a it's I don't know what's going to happen, and I don't think anybody really knows. I would doubt that Toho even knows. I mean, you have to remember the entire
Toho's just like, just don't kill Godzilla. That's it.
No, that's probably what it's that probably tracks. It's just interesting to you have to remember that Hollywood is kind of in a state of chaos right now, and that also extends to the Japanese side of things. And as a result, you've got to seriously consider. You have to seriously consider, like, well, they're probably just going to see how they can physically release Godzilla vs. Kong before they even have any kind of plan for what comes next.
Yeah.
So that, they got, but we'll see.
I'm torn. As much as I would love for them to be like, hey, it's on digital, go ahead, go nuts, I would feel robbed of not seeing it in IMAX of some capacity.
I would not doubt that if they wound up putting it out on VOD, they would later release it to theaters as like a special run thing. Yeah. Hi, Quinn. Sorry, it's my buddy Quinn stopping by to say hi. Yay! Quinn's actually been on Giganticast a few times.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show.
Yay.
My dad asked an interesting question. Is there any life with owners of Gamera and doing a new movie? They dropped that teaser a couple years ago, but
I wouldn't be surprised if they're trying to figure something out. Because kaiju are back in vogue. They are back to being part of our pop culture lexicon, and doing a kaiju movie is now, at the very least, guaranteed to make profit on some level, or at least have really good merchandising opportunities. It's now not as big a risk to do a kaiju movie as it used to be. So I wouldn't be surprised if they went ahead and moved forward with something. I do know that that teaser short, that short film or whatever, is not on the Blu-ray set. They, as I understand it, I could be wrong, but last I checked,
they're gonna throw it on there, very last second. Like,
surprise! Yeah, last second put it on there, like, that was wrong. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know what that means. It could mean that they're looking to explore something. It could mean that there's just some copyright stuff tied up with it that they don't have the rights to let other people use it. Who knows?
Yeah.
But it wouldn't surprise me if they would work on something.
Oh. So who do you think? So Godzilla versus Kong. What's your ending theory? If you could make the movie end your way, what would it be?
If I could make it in,
yeah. If you had the final act, how would your movie end?
Here's what Kong basically has been growing this one tree for the last 50 years, and that's the tree he's gonna show. It's like the Excalibur of trees, but it has to go in Godzilla's mouth. I swear to God, if they don't reference that in the new movie, I'm gonna be really disappointed. But I would say, if I dramatically, I think it would be really cool if Godzilla and Kong fought, and Godzilla, and basically, wouldn't it be cool if they were fighting on a volcano or something, and Godzilla got pushed into the lava, got pushed into the volcano, basically trapped underground or something? Or what if they were fighting in the Hollow Earth, and somehow, basically, Kong won, but not by killing Godzilla, just by defeating him, by trapping him? or something. And then, but then what if Kong dies from his wounds? You know, like.
Yeah, I don't know. I had a crazy theory that definitely, obviously, isn't happening. If you saw any of the leaks, I had talked about this on the show at some point, but I wanted them to go, since they were very, going in a very superhero kind of, leaving the tone of 14, which was very grounded in reality, and then kind of going full Showa, so to speak, for the second one. I wanted them to bring aliens back. Like, I wanted to see, like a whole kind of, invasion of the Astro Monster, where now that Monarch, basically lost Serizawa and all that, a new, new ownership came in, and they just so happened to be aliens. They were building a Mechanicon, and that's why Godzilla is going to Skull Island, because he's like, that's not the real Kong. And that, I would have loved something like that. And then, then they fight. It's revealed that it's Mechanicon, and then they bring Anguirus in. He releases the real Kong from wherever they were using him to build Mechanicon. That was my fantasy.
Oh, man.
And then you'd have Godzilla and Kong versus Mechanicon, and then I personally wanted Destroyer to show up, but who knows?
That's fun though. That's really fun. I mean, I remember when a friend of mine who saw the test. He saw the early cut of the film as part of a test screening out in LA of King of the Monsters. And he basically said, like, oh, man, they went full Avengers with it. Like, they pretty much threw the 2014 thing out the window. And based on the leaks and based on what I've heard, I like that they're kind of getting weird with this one.
Well, that's what I mean. If you're going to go, if you're going to keep progressing, might as well just go total 70s with it. Bring back the aliens. Yes, release the AJ cut. Yes, I'll be doing a special cut of the movie.
Well, you just need to do a special cut, and then just every 5 to 10 minutes, it just cuts to the Planet X aliens, just like and then it's you like crudely voicing over them, like, yes, Ghidorah, fight Godzilla now, and oh man,
don't give me any ideas.
Kill them. That'd be awesome. That'd be great. Yeah, man. Oh, are there any other questions we wanted to tackle, or?
No, I think. I mean, I had X'd everything that I had written down over here.
All right, right on, man. What's up?
Can you do a Transformer vs. Godzilla comic? Ooh.
I done plenty of fan art of that.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think I remember seeing a couple of those.
I mean, trust me, we tried a few crossovers at IDW. We wanted to do Mars Attacks versus Godzilla. We wanted to do
that would have been interesting.
Godzilla versus Cthulhu. We wanted to do.
Oh my God, that's been my wet dream fantasy project. Mm-hmm. I don't get how that monster has still never been in a movie. I don't understand. It's the coolest looking thing that somehow still has no representation other than some anime stuff, and but how that's never been in a movie. Like when you first saw the trailer for Cloverfield, I mean, that's what I thought that was. I was like, oh my God, we're finally doing it. And then they tore my heart out. I hate Cloverfield.
Oh, that's a shame.
I can't.
It's pretty good. I had a very visceral experience with Cloverfield in the theater, and had a really good time with it. And that really colored a lot of my opinion of it. But we tried to do Godzilla versus the Lovecraft universe. We tried to do one thing that we really wanted to do, or rather specifically IDW really wanted to do, was Godzilla versus Kiss. And because they wanted to sell it in Japan, because Kiss is huge in Japan.
That's
and
so wild.
It would have been awesome, but unfortunately, kind of that fell through. And then any of the other crossover ideas, Toho was just like, we don't want to deal with the red tape on this. It's already a huge pain to have to approve all the Godzilla stuff, and every issue has to be approved, every script has to be approved. To do that on top of a crossover, it's too much, you know.
Yeah. What about what is it, Redman?
Yeah.
Is there a volume 3 on the way? Or
volume 3's out? It's been out.
Rafi, you messing with me, man? What about volume 4? I don't know. Rafi said something about it earlier.
Yeah, somebody earlier was asking about volume 3. Redman volume 3 is available. If you actually contact the Kinokuniya in Austin, they have signed copies there. They'll just send them to you. You can buy them through them, and they'll send them to you. And also nightshininginc.com, I think, is where you can buy them directly from the publisher. So it's available. It's out. I might have a few copies myself, actually. I'm going to see about, you know, it dropped right after all the COVID stuff hit. So in the chaos, I think it was hard for to get the word.
Yeah, it's probably some of the local shops probably just don't have it yet.
Yeah, well, it's harder to we don't, that company doesn't have a Diamond account, so comic book shops couldn't really get a hold of them. So
yeah, I mean, I'm still waiting to get stuff from Diamond. So
yeah. Oh well.
So let's see. Let's finish this off with something fun. So I know there's a lot of hate that goes around when your name is mentioned, especially this box set. So do you have anything you'd like to say to all the haters out there?
I'm gonna buy it anyway.
Oh my god! Shut up and draw.
I mean,
no, I'm just.
Yeah, story of my life. I mean, it's, you know, there's not a whole lot to say other than you don't
have to actually address them. I'm just messing around.
I know. It's just funny because, like, I see that stuff and I'm like, I don't know. People seem like they're excited for it. I think the thing, actually, here's one thing I wanted to say, which is it has been a little bit of a Matt Frank show when it comes to this Gamera box set. I'm not the only person who worked on it. I mean, I was very, very fortunate that Arrow was so open to my suggestions that they started bringing in Steve Reifel and Ed Godzucheski and Kyle Yount and all these and Ed Holland and Richard Pusateri and all these other folks who awesome. I started throwing names out there for commentary tracks, and they pretty much brought in just about everybody. And Julian Yates, who's another amazing artist, he did those X-ray Gamera illustrations from the Shout Factory days. They brought him back, and he finished it out. He did X-rays for the rest of the monsters.
That's awesome,
and it's very cool. And I don't know. And I didn't even do all of the packaging art myself. I got some help from a couple of other artists that I know, because I wanted to give them. I needed help making the deadline because, you know, everything's happening in the middle of everything else. Even our y'all know Danielle, Kaiju Cutie on Instagram.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, she actually laid down some flat colors for me on one of the book covers that comes with it, the one with the Japanese style. So she was actually a big help in taking some of the pressure off to get some of that stuff done. That means that basically means that she laid down like base colors that then I could work off of, because it's just one extra step I didn't have to do, and I was really grateful she did it for me. So all of these things are collaborative efforts. So I really appreciate everyone and all their hard work on working on this set. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, I think it's gonna, you know, no offense to the Criterion, but I think if you're a Gamera fan, I mean, this is everything you've ever wanted. Although I don't like Gamera the Brave, so I'm a little like, why is that even in there? But hey, that's just me.
Hey, Gamera the Brave is a delightful coming of age story. about turtles.
All right. So what Arrow should have did with Gamera the Brave is they literally should have just took Gamera's Raw and inserted it into the movie. They should have been like the Arrow cut, and just like
I very nearly suggested they did. I think I may have brought it up at some point while we were talking about it. Oh man,
that's the one thing that just blows my mind watching that movie, because for me it takes me out of the movie. It's like if Godzilla didn't have his roar. If he was just like rah, you'd be like, what? Yeah, like
I don't know, man. I don't know what I would love to ask. Yeah, I know a few people who worked on The Brave, but they probably don't know. I bet you it was a placeholder because they couldn't find the clean audio for the original roar, and it just went through that way. Or maybe the director didn't like the original roar. I mean, who knows? I don't know. But I agree with you. It's
like Dean Devlin being like, I don't like Godzilla, but I'm going to direct this movie. It's like, well, thanks, guy. Appreciate that.
What can you do? What can you do?
But, all right, man.
Yeah.
It's getting a little late here.
Yeah, it's getting late here, too.
Thank you so much for doing this. This is great. And
sure, it's fun.
I cannot wait to get those prints. This is like a dream come true for me, because I met you at G-Fest when I was a lot younger, and I had gotten the Godzilla versus Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from you.
Oh, yeah.
And that is one of my... And I saw that, I was like, all right, that's mine. I need that in my life. This has all been very like surreal, and I can't thank you enough to bring our monsters to life. It's been awesome.
Sure, I'm happy to do it, man. I'm glad it was mutually beneficial. Y'all, I love y'all's show. I love what y'all are doing, and anything I can do to help, I'll get these bad boys signed and slap them in a box and send them your way.
All right, well, I just want to show them off one more time before we go.
Yeah.
If anyone has no idea what we're talking about, Matt Frank, the artwork behind me is done by Matt Frank, and we are going to be having signed prints. What are they, 11 by 17? Is that how?
Yeah, they're 11 by 17, and you should be able to find a frame for them at Michael's, or you can order one from Michael's or something, or I don't know if you guys have Michael's up north, but
yep, we do.
You can get those frames are really easy to get a hold of for 11 by 17, so that's how you can find them. So
yep, and they will be in the store. For those that don't know, yes, Kaiju Live does have a store. It's not just a YouTube show. KaijuLive.shop. Check us out there, and that's where these will be available. And of course, I'll post them up in the group and all that. But, all right, man, thank you so much. And I'll let you say goodbye. If you got anything, some last closing moments.
All I've got left to say is, actually, the last thing I will say is, well, if you want to follow me, you can follow me over at mattfrankart.net, which is the hub for all my stuff. Mattzilla85 on Instagram, Spankzilla85 on Twitter, very tasteful. And one thing I will say is this weekend, Friday and Saturday, I will be streaming for VirtuaCon. I will be doing live drawing videos of commissions. I've got commissions are full. They're filled up, but I'll be working on those. And what's the other thing? And I'll also be doing a charity sale. I'm going to have some of my other prints for sale that are going to be donating the proceeds to charity. So
awesome.
So check in with that. I'll be showing which prints will be for sale during the stream. So yeah.
If you want to post that stuff in the group, feel free, man.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, all right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope this was entertaining. And I think we'll see you all on Sunday. Have a good night.